From enormous pyramids whose construction methods still perplex engineers, to unexplained artifacts and hidden chambers buried beneath the Great Sphinx, ancient Egypt holds secrets far deeper and more disturbing than most people realize. But recently, in the shadow of the world's oldest pyramids, archaeologists found a funeral home unlike anything previously discovered in Egypt. It was not just a place where the dead were prepared for burial. It was the center of a massive operation built around mummification, tomb sales, burial packages, and the promise of eternal life. After clearing tons of debris from a deep shaft at Saqqara, researchers unearthed oddly decorated rooms, hundreds of vessels, underground burial chambers, and more than 100 coffins. So, who were these people? What does Saqqara reveal about Egypt's obsession with the afterlife? And why did so many people place their faith in a world they could never see? Saqqara, the first capital of Egypt, Saqqara, isn't just an ancient cemetery site in Egypt. It is a place that ancient Egyptians kept returning to for more than 3,000 years. Kings and queens were buried here. Priests were buried here. Military commanders were buried here. Even sacred bulls were carried into underground chambers carved beneath the desert and sealed inside enormous stone coffins weighing dozens of tons. The strange part is that Saqqara never really lost its importance. As Egypt grew into one of the most powerful civilizations on Earth, its capital moved from one city to another. Royal families built pyramids at Giza. Later rulers established themselves farther south at Thebes. Entire religious traditions rose and fell. But people continued bringing their dead back to Saqqara. So, why? Well, the answer may begin with a monument that changed history. Around 4,700 years ago, Pharaoh Djoser ordered his architect Imhotep to build something no one had attempted before. Up until that point, Egyptian rulers were buried inside rectangular mastaba tombs. Then, almost suddenly, the step pyramid appeared. Built entirely from stone, it became the first pyramid in history and the structure that would inspire every pyramid that came later. But the deeper archaeologists dig into Saqqara, the harder it becomes to view it as just the birthplace of pyramid building. Beneath the sand are tombs belonging to powerful officials, military leaders, royal advisors, and people whose names disappeared from history thousands of years ago. Some were found only because archaeologists decided to re-examine areas that had already been explored in the 19th century. In several cases, important tombs appeared only a few feet from where earlier excavations had stopped. For a site studied for more than a century, that is a remarkable fact. Saqqara helped launch the Pyramid Age. It remained important long after Egypt's capital moved elsewhere. And even now, it continues to produce discoveries from a landscape many believed had already surrendered its secrets. The 100 coffins hidden beneath Saqqara sands. Archaeologists and Egyptologists have discovered a lot of coffins hidden beneath Saqqara, and it makes logical sense because this ancient Egyptian necropolis was built for one purpose: the dead. For more than 3,000 years, kings, generals, and ordinary Egyptians were brought here to begin what they believed would be an eternal existence. But even by Saqqara's standards, what happened in 2018 was extraordinary. The discovery began with a search for tombs dating to around 600 BC. Led by Egyptologist Ramadan Hussein of the University of Tübingen, a team returned to an area that had already been examined in the late 19th century. Earlier excavators had worked the site, removed what they considered valuable, and moved on. It seemed unlikely that anything significant remained. Then the team located a shaft cut directly into the bedrock. The opening was packed with sand, rubble, and debris. Reaching the bottom was not a simple task. Workers spent months removing nearly 42 tons of fill before finally reaching a chamber below. What they found was totally unexpected. Instead of another tomb, the room appeared to be a workshop. Channels had been cut into the stone floor. A large bowl filled with ash and charcoal sat in one corner. Ventilation tunnels carried cool air through the underground space. Thousands of pottery fragments covered the ground. Piece by piece, specialists reconstructed them. The result transformed the entire excavation. Written on the vessels were labels which identified their contents and the exact stage of the embalming process in which they were used. Some contained oils, others held resins, salts, or substances used during mummification. For the first time, archaeologists were looking at instructions written by the embalmers themselves rather than descriptions recorded centuries later. And that single discovery led to an even larger realization. This was not merely a place where bodies were prepared for burial. It was part of a highly organized enterprise operating at the heart of one of the ancient world's most important necropolises. According to Hussein, embalmers offered different burial options depending on what a family could afford. Rich could buy elaborate masks decorated with precious metals and expensive burial equipment. Others received more affordable options. The afterlife, it seemed, came in different price ranges. Just a short distance away, another shaft deepened the mystery. Inside a complex of underground tombs, experts found dozens of mummies. Some rested in elaborate chambers, and some occupied simpler spaces. The deepest burials were the most prestigious because ancient Egyptians believed proximity to the underworld carried spiritual significance. One woman was buried inside a limestone sarcophagus weighing roughly 7.5 tons. Another wore a rare silver and gold funerary mask, the first example discovered in Egypt in more than 50 years. Then came a major announcement. In 2020, Egyptian authorities revealed the discovery of at least 100 sealed coffins buried in shafts across Saqqara. The wooden sarcophagi had remained untouched for more than 2,500 years. Bright colors still covered their surfaces. Hieroglyphs remained visible. Some still contained mummies. During the public presentation, archaeologists opened one coffin and examined the mummy with portable X-ray equipment. The scan suggested the individual was a healthy male who died between the ages of 40 and 45. For a site excavated for generations, the quantity alone was remarkable. But perhaps the most surprising detail is where all of this was found. The mummification workshop stood less than 3 feet from where French and Egyptian excavators stopped digging in 1899. For more than a century, the evidence remained hidden beneath the very ground archaeologists believed they had already explored. That reality forces an uncomfortable question. If discoveries of this scale can remain unnoticed for over 100 years in one of the most studied archaeological sites on Earth, how much of Saqqara still lies beneath the sand? Because every new shaft, every sealed coffin, and every forgotten chamber suggests the ancient city of the dead may still be holding far more darker secrets than anyone expected. The mysterious 100-ton stone coffins of Saqqara, the hundreds of coffins hidden beneath Saqqara, are not the only burials that have puzzled archaeologists. Long before researchers descended into the shafts containing more than 100 human coffins, another discovery beneath the same necropolis was raising a very different set of questions. This one had nothing to do with pharaohs, nobles, or wealthy officials. Instead, it was built for bulls. We're not talking about just any bulls, but the sacred Apis bulls of Memphis. In ancient Egypt, the Apis bull was believed to be the living manifestation of Ptah, one of the most important gods in the Egyptian world. Priests searched for specific markings believed to identify the animal chosen by the gods. Once selected, the bull lived a life unlike any other animal in Egypt. It was worshipped, honored, and treated as a divine being. When it died, the event was not viewed as the death of an animal. It was treated as a national religious ceremony. That belief led to one of the most extraordinary underground complexes ever built in Egypt. Hidden beneath the sands northwest of Djoser's step pyramid lies the Serapeum of Saqqara. The site was rediscovered in 1850 by the French Egyptologist Auguste Mariette, after local reports described strange sphinxes emerging from the desert. Following the avenue of buried statues, Mariette reached a network of underground galleries stretching deep beneath the plateau. What he found inside was incredible. Along the corridors stood huge stone sarcophagi carved from granite, basalt, and other hard stones. Some weighed close to 100 tons. Their lids alone weighed many additional tons. Even today, standing beside them produces an immediate question. How were they brought here? The challenge is not simply cutting the stone. ancient Egyptian craftsmen had already demonstrated remarkable stoneworking abilities in monuments across the country. The larger puzzle is logistics. These colossal boxes had to be quarried, shaped, transported across considerable distances. Lowered underground, maneuvered through confined passageways, and positioned with remarkable accuracy inside chambers carved beneath the desert. And they did this not just one or two times, but again and again. The official explanation points to skilled labor, sledges, levers, rollers, abrasives, planning, and enormous manpower. Those methods are entirely plausible. But the scale of the operation remains impressive. Every sarcophagus represents years of work dedicated not to a king, but to a single sacred animal. That fact alone reveals something important about ancient Egyptian beliefs. The Apis bulls were not buried here because people feared them. They were buried here because they represented a connection between the human world and the divine realm. Each burial reinforced the authority of Memphis, the priesthood, and the religious traditions that shaped Egyptian society for centuries. According to Egyptian records, the Serapeum remained in use from the reign of Amenhotep III during the New Kingdom, and continued through the Ptolemaic period, spanning well over 1,000 years. But another mystery awaited archaeologists. Many of the chambers were found empty or disturbed. Over time, stories emerged claiming the sarcophagi served some unknown purpose or belonged to a forgotten civilization. Archaeologists point to a far simpler explanation. Ancient looters reached the site long before modern excavators arrived. Valuable contents disappeared, while the massive stone containers remained behind because moving them was nearly impossible. Today, the Serapeum stands as one of the strangest and most mind-blowing places in Saqqara. Deep underground, surrounded by silence and darkness, row after row of giant stone coffins continues to challenge modern imagination. Not because they were built by a lost civilization, but because they reveal how far ancient Egyptians were willing to go for a belief. When a society invests centuries of labor, engineering, and resources into building monumental tombs for sacred bulls, it becomes pretty clear that religion in ancient Egypt was not merely a part of life. It was the foundation upon which entire worlds were built. The Egyptian prince and a giant false pink door now. Imagine finding a giant pink granite door, sealed in silence for thousands of years, deep within Egypt's legendary sands. It's not a mythical story, but back in 2025, archaeologists in Saqqara made exactly this mind-blowing discovery. Hidden inside a 4,400-year-old tomb was an enormous false door standing nearly 15 feet high, carved from rare pink granite and built for a man historians didn't even know existed. His name was Prince Djoser, also known as Djoser Ifri, the son of Pharaoh Djoser, founder of Egypt's 5th dynasty, who ruled around 2465 to 2458 BC. Before this discovery, the prince had vanished completely from history. No surviving records had revealed his existence. Then, after more than 4 millennia, his tomb suddenly emerged from the sands of Saqqara. But the most fascinating part wasn't the prince himself. It was the door. To ancient Egyptians, false doors were far more than decoration. They believed the spirit of the deceased could pass through them, moving between the world of the living and the afterlife. Offerings left in front of these doors were thought to nourish the dead for eternity. False doors are common in Egyptian tombs, but this one was completely different. It was carved entirely from pink granite transported from Aswan, more than 400 miles south of Saqqara. During the Old Kingdom, granite of this quality was usually reserved for royalty and the highest ranks of society. Standing about 14.8 feet tall and nearly 4 feet wide, it is the largest false granite door ever discovered in the Saqqara necropolis. The inscriptions carved into its surface reveal that the prince held remarkable positions. He was described as a hereditary prince, a judge, a minister, a governor of 2 provinces, and a chanting priest. Yet despite those powerful titles, history somehow forgot him. The surprises did not stop there. Near the door, archaeologists found a red granite offering table where food and gifts would have been placed for the prince's spirit. Ancient Egyptians believed the deceased could magically consume the essence of these offerings while priests performed the rituals. Then another mystery appeared. Evidence showed the tomb had been reused nearly 1800 years later during Egypt's 26th dynasty, between 688 and 525 BC. Inside, archaeologists discovered statues depicting Pharaoh Djoser, his wife, and his daughters. Djoser ruled around 2630 to 2611 BC and built the Step Pyramid, the very monument that transformed Egyptian architecture forever. Why the statues built during Djoser's lifetime moved into Prince Userefre's tomb centuries later is still a mystery. Even Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, who leads the excavation, says only part of the tomb has been explored. The burial chamber itself remains missing. More rooms may still lie hidden beneath the sand. For now, the giant granite door remains one of the most intriguing pieces of the puzzle. Built as a gateway for a soul, it has instead become a doorway into a forgotten chapter of Egyptian history, raising new questions about a prince erased from memory, a tomb reused across centuries, and secrets that may still be waiting beneath Saqqara's ancient sands. The life, rituals, and beliefs of ancient Egyptians. This discovery changes the way archaeologists look at Saqqara, not because of a pyramid, a royal tomb, or a golden treasure, but because of something most people would walk past without noticing: seashells. For decades, researchers have searched Saqqara for clues about pharaohs, officials, and burial practices. But excavations by the Polish-led Saqqara West mission revealed something far more personal. Scattered among the remains were mollusk shells, small objects that offer a rare glimpse into how ordinary Egyptians thought, lived, and prepared for eternity. Some shells served practical purposes. Larger examples were used to hold oils, perfumes, and ink. Others became jewelry worn on the body. But their significance went much deeper than convenience. Cowrie shells held special meaning because their shape was associated with fertility and childbirth. Women carried them as protective amulets, and some were placed beside children in burials. Egyptians believed certain objects possessed powers that could continue protecting a person long after death. The same belief appears in the graves of scribes. Clam shells often served as ink containers and were buried alongside their owners. To the Egyptians, death was not the end of daily life. It was a continuation of it. A scribe would still need his writing tools. A priest would still need the objects linked to his duties. The afterlife was expected to work much like the world they left behind. What makes these finds particularly interesting is their rarity. Since 1999, only about 30 shells have been recovered at Saqqara. None carries royal inscriptions or elaborate decoration. Their value came from what they represented rather than how they looked. That may be the most revealing detail of all. While pyramids and monuments show the power of ancient Egypt, these shells reveal something far more human, a society that saw meaning in even the smallest objects and believed they could carry that meaning into eternity. So, what's your take on this ancient Egyptian necropolis? Let us know, and be sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you.